All righty. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. This is the All Talk Sports Show. I'm RJ. That is Sean. And once again, thank you for tuning in. I hope you're having a good day. So we wanna start out. We will recap last week, week 12. But first of all, last week
Yeah, I had
Thursday
something on my
night.
mind I wanted to talk about. What
uh,
could it be?
yeah, no, right on the top of your head. No pun intended. Um, let's start out by last Thursday. There's supposed to be Ravens supposed to go into Pittsburgh and play on Thursday night at primetime Thanksgiving night game. Then they postponed it to Sunday. Then early Saturday they postponed it to Monday. Then then late Sunday they postponed it again to Wednesday. And it's Wednesday afternoon, and so far it hasn't been postponed again. So it's supposed to come back on in a couple hours. So, Sean, I know this is your field of expertise. Go ahead and
Well, yeah, I've been waiting for this game all week. It seems like deja vu. It seems like we were talking about this last Wednesday. Um, the Ravens are coming in. They've got a lot of people on the COVID list, but I expect it to be a really good game still. Uh, it's not clear whether Dobbins and Ingram are going to be back for the Ravens. Jackson's definitely out. You got RJ3 filling in a quarterback. You know, I think he fits in nicely with that offense. You don't got to change a lot of things. We'll see what RJ3 looks like. He hasn't played a lot in the last couple of years, you know. But I expect the Ravens to bring it. Their season's on the line. It's always a great game. They hate each other appropriately. I still think everybody's counting them out, which is another reason why I think the Ravens are going to show up. Ultimately, obviously, I think the Steelers are going to go ahead and ultimately win. Steelers come in with they're not unscathed by the COVID either. They're missing their starting run back, James Conner, starting defensive end, Stephen Tuitt. Those are two big players, so you know Steelers have a couple of guys out. Should be a fun game. Can't wait. What are your thoughts?
um, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Robert Griffin um, is is just a watered down Lamar Jackson. Um,
Right.
and that's exactly what you pointed out. Um, Pittsburgh is not 100% healthy either. The Ravens have their backs against the wall. I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore comes out and puts on a show. I don't think they're going to come out and win at, at all. And I don't even know if they're going to beat the spread at all either.
What is the spread on that game? I haven't even checked it lately.
Um, well, if I remember from last week, it was like 4.
It was 4. Yeah.
It was something like that. So I don't know if I have enough confidence, even with Lamar Jackson. I don't know if I have enough confidence in Baltimore to beat the spread there. So I don't know if I take Baltimore losing by less than 4, but I it might be a one score game. It'll be a fun one.
Absolutely, always is. Which kind of segues into a subject I wanted to discuss. What are your thoughts on the NFL going to a bubble for the playoffs? I mean, personally, I think they have to. If something like what happened this week with the Steelers and Ravens happens during the playoffs, that's disastrous. They can't have that happen. You have to postpone every game. You can't just have to postpone the one game. You have to postpone the whole week,
Yep.
and they can't have that happening.
No.
And
And
I hear very little talk about this.
well, and it's a great idea. There are very few NFL teams that actually let fans into the stadium anyway. Um, it
Right.
seems like teams are getting a little bit more laxed on, or states are getting a little bit more laxed on that. But even so, there's still very few NFL teams that allow fans in the stands. And if you're not going to have fans in the stands anyway, I don't see any problem with having a bubble.
It'll be every other major sports did it. Some of them went to multiple bubbles, and NBA just had the single bubble. It sucks. It sucks for the playoffs, but I mean, you got to suck it up for a few months, month and a half. You got to. NFL needs to protect one, the players' health, and two, the integrity of these games. And down the, I'd be for putting the bubble into effect a couple of weeks before the end of the season. Get everybody quarantined, everybody healthy, everybody protected, and go in and have a relatively worry-free playoffs.
I completely agree. And, even doing something like the NBA did where only the playoff eligible teams go to the bubble, and all the teams that are already out of it just stay home and stay with your family and be well. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. The key is the integrity of the ball games.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, like we see it in college football,
Yeah.
the obviously you want safety for the fans also, but you also put a little bit of trust in the fans that they're going to make smart decisions and they're going to social distance and do all that sort of stuff. So the main thing is integrity of the schedule, playoffs,
Right.
and I think if you do a bubble like the other sports did, there's a guarantee that you won't have any more problems.
The article I was reading, if they decide to do it, they do individual bubbles, like put the team up in a hotel room near the facility, and the only contact they have is to go to practice and go to train and go to the games.
Yep.
Instead of having like a big bubble with all the teams there.
Well,
the downside is it's logistically a nightmare, and if someone does get inside that bubble who's positive, then you have a chance of massive outbreak. That's only two downsides, but I just think you got to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at the MLB, looking at the NBA, I mean, both both of those leagues did it very well, very successfully, and I don't
Absolutely, they
see
did.
why the National Football League couldn't do that also.
Yeah, I agree. They have to. Okay, let's move on.
Oh, the helmet comes off.
Well, I can
it's
only
go
be a
time
homer
now.
for so long. I gotta act like I'm impartial.
All right, so now let's recap Week 12, the games that have already happened. I want to start with. Let's start in the NFC. How about the San Francisco 49ers beat the LA Rams 23-20?
What I was just thinking. I think about what we're going to talk about on the show. I was thinking about, well, me and RJ, we're having trouble calling these games, but it's not just us, my friend. All the talking heads, all the experts, they have no idea from week to week who's going to. There's a new bandwagon every week, and then the Rams were the hot team. Last week and the week before, everybody's jumping on that bandwagon, and they go lose to the 49ers. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think I brought this up.
What is that? You see that?
Yeah, I do see that. Weird.
All right, I'll stop tripping out. I have no idea what that is.
No, you're all good. So I think I brought this up last week's show. We have not called a single game right all year.
It's not just us, man. I swear.
And it's stinking. It's games like this where the Rams are leading their division. That they have a chance to make a deep run to the playoffs, and then they come out here. Jared Goff forgets how to throw a football. Their really elite defense just decides to stop playing and let the 49ers
with all the injuries on San Francisco, that should have been a give me game for them.
And and not only that, even even healthy, San Francisco is not playing par this year. They're definitely not the caliber they were last year.
No, not at all. No.
Just the NFC is really making me mad now. Right?
Yeah, last week I was saying the only team I really trusted on both sides of the ball was the Saints. Still believe that, but when I watch the Packers, and you like the Packers,
Yeah.
I love their offense, and I don't trust their defense. But I was just thinking the other day, Aaron Rodgers has done more with a lot less. Man, I've seen him take Packers a couple years ago to the NFC Championship with no one around him on either side of the ball. So he's one of the very few quarterbacks that can actually put a team on his shoulders and will them deep into the playoffs. So I'll never bet against him. But the Saints get that little general back, and they're going to be tough to beat. And the Seahawks, the Seahawks are rising now. What's going on there? We were ready to write them off a couple of weeks ago.
I'm not jumping back on the Seahawks just yet. I'm going to stay with the Packers. I'm definitely going to stay with the Packers. I like Aaron Rodgers. The Packers aren't my favorite team by any means, but not knowing how Drew Brees is going to come back from his injury, knowing that Aaron Rodgers is reliable, always has been, and probably always will be, I'm still staying with the Packers, but the Seahawks. Now, granted, it was the Philadelphia Eagles, and I want to talk about them a little bit later. But I mean, that was an impressive win. But once again, it was the Eagles, so I don't know if I'm completely ready to jump back on Philadelphia just yet.
Or Seahawks, yeah.
Or yeah. That.
I think everybody can agree.
Yeah, we got you. So I think that's a good segue. We can continue the recaps here in a little bit. I want to talk about Philadelphia. There, you can point blame at so many places in terms of where the dysfunction's coming from in Philadelphia. Where do you think the problem starts?
The offensive line. That guy doesn't have one moment to think back there. I was watching that game against the Seahawks. Wentz is making some bad decisions for sure. He's trying to force some balls, but he's got somebody in his face every damn play.
I look at it, and that's a big factor. That the offensive line obviously is very important to the success of a quarterback. But I was watching that game against the Seahawks, and even when Carson Wentz had time, he still couldn't. He's still having a hard time. He's still having a hard time doing things that a starting quarterback should do, that a Super Bowl winning quarterback should do. If I'm Philadelphia, I think about benching or maybe trading Carson Wentz.
He's got a huge price tag. He's got a lot of money guaranteed. And so you want to put Hurst in?
Well, I mean, I just look at Philadelphia and I say, yeah, I think Carson Wentz is the problem.
Yeah.
I don't.
I was never. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh well. I don't think it's all head coaching. I don't think it's all the offensive line. I don't think it's all. I mean, now their defense isn't great, but I don't think it's entirely their defense's fault. But I just look at Carson Wentz, and he's just not performing well.
Yeah, he's really not. And I was never a big Carson Wentz guy in the first place. I always thought he was a little bit overrated. But it's only thing I'd be apprehensive about if I'm the Eagles putting Hurst behind that offensive line. you don't want to get him hurt. Right? I don't know. I don't know what you do there.
My only. Yeah, I don't know what to do either. I watched I like to watch Stephen A and Max on First Take a lot, and they brought this up a couple weeks ago, talking about where the real problem in Philadelphia was, and I just I have to side with Carson Wentz is the problem. I think if they put in a solid quarterback, Philadelphia is at least a winning team, which is more than you can say for anybody in that division, really. So that's just the way I see it. And I just wanted to know if I just wanted to see your perspective on that.
Yeah, for me, it's Wentz and the offensive line. I don't know if any quarterback's going to have success with that offensive line.
Yeah, I don't know either. Time will tell. That division is still neck and neck. Nobody know. I don't know if anybody really cares other than the the fans of those particular teams. But that division's still up in the air from top to bottom. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I wanna stay in the NFC. The Patriots beat the Cardinals 20-17. Another
Yeah, the
another one
Patriots just won't go
where
away.
just another game where we start hopping on the Cardinals. We start hopping on Kyler Murray and Hopkins and Fitzgerald and that Cardinals defense, and all of a sudden, what happened?
Yeah, Patriots just refuse to go away, man. Everybody wants them to go away.
Yeah, it's time for a new powerhouse in pro football. Um,
Yeah.
but but man, that really makes me mad. And it shows me that we were really quick to jump on the Kyler Murray bandwagon. Everybody was, not just us, everybody.
Yeah.
We have to remember he's only been in the league a couple years. So,
You know what?
and
I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say he's only been in the league a couple years, and he jumped on a winless team, really. So I think Kyler Murray will be a star. I just think we need to give him time.
I didn't realize how short he is. He's a little guy.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he can't have success. Bree's a little guy as well. But yeah, it's tougher when you're smaller like that.
yeah.
He needs to hang in the pocket more and prove that he's a pocket passer, that he can get it done.
Yeah, I agree.
In my
He's a big running threat, and you don't blame him for running the ball more, but in order to be effective, you got to throw that football.
You really do. And running quarterbacks, they get figured out after a couple years.
Yep.
Teams figured out what your weaknesses are, and they'll exploit it. Defensive coordinators and defensive players, they're professionals. They're going to figure them out.
Yeah, we see that happen far too often.
Yeah.
So I want to jump over to the other conference now. How about the Raiders getting blown out by Atlanta? I mean, good grief.
I watched a lot of that. I watched a lot of that game. That was a horrific game. Like, nobody wanted to win it. They just kept giving the ball to each other. Raiders were extraordinarily bad. They lost to Kansas City the week before. They looked good doing it.
Really good.
And they've been playing good ball up to that. Another team, everybody was ready to, maybe get on their bandwagon. But man, they stunk it up against Atlanta, man. They really did.
Yeah, and we talked about Atlanta last week. Atlanta's not a bad team, but the Raiders,
They're really not.
The Raiders, they beat Kansas City early in the year. They are right on the verge of a playoff spot, and they lose by almost 40 points. And does this game count Las Vegas out? I mean, obviously, maybe not mathematically, but do you think, psychologically and just realistically, do you think the Raiders have a shot at coming back after this?
There's this. The Browns are playing good. Obviously, they're going to get. Look to get a wild card. The Browns are going to look to get a wild card. Whoever comes out of the East, the other team's going to be looking for a wild card. And I just heard this stat the other day that blew my mind about the Raiders' defense. They are allowing their opponent to score 50% of the time. That's 1 out of 2 for everybody at home. That's historically bad.
That's very
historically bad. And that's the worst ever. The 50% of the time, the other team has the ball, they're going to score. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows 43-6 to a losing team. Yeah, Las Vegas has to do something about that defense.
Yeah, they really do.
So I don't have faith. I trust the Dolphins over the Raiders at this point. Now the Dolphins are playing well.
I do too.
But that's pretty bad, Raiders fans. That's pretty embarrassing that I'm putting more faith in the Dolphins to make the playoffs than the Raiders. The next one I want to talk about, it should have been a closer game than what it was. It was we got this one way wrong. We both chose the Colts, and as it turns out, Tennessee decides to win by almost 20 in Indianapolis.
Watching that game as well, there was a point in the second quarter, it's 14-14, and I turned to Jordan, and I'm like, this game is everything it's built up to be. This is going to be a great game. Titans are driving down the field. They get 20, 25-yard line. Colts hold them to a third down, third long. They hold them. Penalty on the defense. They end up scoring a touchdown. It just seems like the whole game turned on that. You can't be, third and long. You can't be having silly penalties that give another team first downs. And to me, that's where sometimes you can point out a play where that's where it changed. And for me, that's where it changed. And man, they just pounded the heck out of the Colts after that. It was really bad.
Yeah, well, Derrick Henry is just a beast, and he carries that team. He really does. And
do we need to start talking about him for MVP? Maybe.
you know what? Maybe. The Patrick Mahomes is really good. Ben Roethlisberger is really good. But
I think Rodgers put himself in the conversation.
Aaron Rodgers, that another guy that I've been praising pretty heavily this season. But without Derrick Henry, I don't even know if the Titans have a winning season.
Honestly. I don't. They have a beast of a wide receiver. I wish I could remember his name. Number 11. He's a big dude, catches the ball and just gets people out of his way. And he's fast too. He broke one for a long run against the Colts this week. Really good wide receiver. But yeah, without Derrick Henry, I don't know where they're at.
It just a big break. Just the Colts have to run the football well. I think, I don't know. I think if I remember correctly, their leading rusher had 40 yards, 50 yards, something like that. You just have to run the football well. If the Colts don't have a great passing offense, and if you don't have a great passing offense, you got to run the football, and they just can't. They just didn't do that.
Nope.
So, good win for Tennessee. Tennessee's, I think that win was pretty much puts them right smack dab in the playoffs. That's a great win for Tennessee. They needed it. They
really did.
They were shaky. No, I didn't know whether to put faith in them or not, but they needed that win and they got it done.
Yeah, and their defense, which was maligned early in the season, is playing a lot better. So
yeah, and I feel
they got a good one against the Browns.
I feel like it'll just continue to get better. So, all right. So before we move on to next week, I do want to touch on that game that you just mentioned. But before that, the Chiefs beat the Buccaneers by 3 in Tampa Bay. Once again, we picked the Chiefs to cover. They definitely did not cover. Um, your thoughts? Your thoughts on that game?
Another game, man. The Chiefs look like the Chiefs, as advertised. Going in this game, I was like, who do I want to lose? Not who do I want to win. It's like, who do I want to lose? Do I want the Chiefs to lose because it helps the Steelers out, or do I want the Buccaneers to lose just because I hate them so very much right now? And I'm having a lot of fun watching Brady implode right now.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Like I said, the Chiefs as advertised, and you know what? To me, the Buccaneers as advertised. They're having problems on both sides of the ball. They really are. I think a lot of people are thinking that the disconnect between Brady and his problems is because of the offense they're running. It's not an offense that he's used to running in New England. But I think a lot of people are thinking he doesn't want to run Bruce Arians' offense, which is a pass-happy offense. They pass it and sprinkle in a run here and there. But to me, that's why Brady came to Tampa Bay to play in this offense, because he wants to prove that he's not a system quarterback. He can do it on his own. He can do it without Belichick, and he can still pass the ball. So I don't think it's that Brady doesn't want to run this offense. I think he just can't run it. He's getting every time he doesn't want to get hit anymore. He's been in the league 100 years. He's tired of getting hit. Anyone looks at him, he's just throwing the ball away. So either he's not making the right read, or he's missing guys open, because when they do give him a clean pocket, he's making the throws. From what I hear in practice, he still makes all the throws. It's just when he gets pressure and he doesn't want to get hit. It's very obvious now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He's he's old, and he doesn't need to be in the league anymore. I mean, he's proven all he needs to prove, and this is no longer a fight he needs to fight. This is just him. I mean, this is just him getting his paycheck while people are still willing to pay him, which by all means, I mean, Tampa Bay, excellent job getting Tom Brady. Now you have a winning team. If everything was normal, you would be selling out the crowd because it's Tom Brady. So I mean, excellent job. Many teams could have used Tom Brady and should have signed Tom Brady. But I'm starting to agree with you. I think the problem is Tom Brady, and that he's just not executing.
And I would disagree with you that he just did it for a paycheck. I think he just absolutely wants to, he doesn't need to prove himself anymore. But I think in his mind, he still does need to prove himself. If he didn't want to be running that Bruce Arians offense, believe me, if Tom Brady doesn't want something, it's not happening, So, and it doesn't help that his coach is calling him out in public, humiliating him on a weekly basis. Because I think that puts more of a chip on his shoulder. I think he's pressing more because of it. I don't see them fixing this year unless Tom Brady decides to stop being stubborn and do what he did in New England. He's got the weapons around him. He doesn't want to get hit anymore, and that's that.
Yeah, I think you're right. You obviously can't put everything on Tom Brady, but at the end of the day, he's just not performing well, and
that defense. Before the beginning of the season, everybody said, "Oh, that defense is not giving up a point all season. They're the greatest thing ever." That defense can't stop anyone.
No, not at all. And they tried against Kansas City. I mean, I understand Kansas City scored 27, but I mean, holding Kansas City to 27 with how bad you've been playing here lately, that's a win, really. I mean,
do you think it was more? Do you think it was Tampa Bay's defense playing well, or Kansas City's offense getting bored in the second half?
Oh, it could have been either one. You just
Yeah.
you, you never know with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is so anybody who's a basketball fan might get this reference, but Oklahoma City a few years ago went out, um, traded Victor Oladipo to get Paul George, traded Enes Kanter to get Carmelo Anthony, and so we had a big
Hmm.
three of Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George. That team was absolutely abysmal to start the season. I mean, it was god awful. We couldn't defend anybody. And then, however, we would play teams like the Golden State Warriors, and we'd play teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were the finals teams of that year. We go out and win. You know, we'd play top 5, top 10 teams in the NBA. We go out and win, and then we'd play teams like Charlotte, teams like Dallas, who weren't winning at all, and we'd get blown out at home. You know, and that's what Tampa Bay's doing. You know, they have a star-studded lineup,
Yeah.
and they're just, you know, they can play good if they put effort into it, but you know, they just
That's
not putting the effort in.
that's why that's why I said last week I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have won that game last week.
Yep.
I didn't think they would, but I said I would not have been surprised. They still have time to put it together and make the playoffs, but I don't know. A lot needs to change.
Yep. They're not contending this year, but I mean, in the years to come, if they can build and not lose, I think they'll be good in a couple years. So now I want to move on and talk about next week. You brought this game up already. Browns at Titans. Tennessee's favored by 5.5. What's your thought?
5.5 seems a little much.
Mhm.
I think the Titans going to win, but I've also been keeping my eye on the Browns. Obviously, they're in Steelers division and they're playing good football, 8-3, and they're getting it now. They get Miles Jack back. He's been gone for the last couple of weeks. He's their best defensive player. I do expect that Kansas City's or Titans are going to keep rolling on that one. I don't think they cover though.
Well, so any other week I would agree with you, but we have not been doing well. And I mean, the Browns only won by 2 last week, you know, and you know, the Browns are winning games, but they're not winning games handily. Like
No, they're not.
like Tennessee has done the last couple weeks. Tennessee has won pretty handily. I mean, last week they won by almost 20 to Indiana, who was a really good team. So I see Kansas City covering. Maybe it
Tennessee.
might be.
Probably Kansas City too, but you said Kansas City.
I'm so sorry. Yes, Tennessee. Yeah. I see Tennessee covering, maybe even a double-digit win.
Wow.
I don't have enough faith in Cleveland to go on the road in Tennessee and play a team like Tennessee who has been rolling. So
I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Kind of looking
so
forward to it.
so Sean takes the Browns. I take the Titans. That's just on the spread. We both take the Titans to win, but he takes the. We'll have fun talking about that one next week because one of us is going to be wrong instead of both of us now. So
we got to start. We got to start doing something.
yeah. So next game. This is two teams that we've both jumped on in the past, and now we're jumping back off. Rams at Cardinals. Rams are favored by 3.
I like the Rams. I do. I think they put it back together.
Well, I'm gonna stay with the trend. I'm gonna say Arizona. Just because I mean Arizona's been cold here lately. LA was embarrassed last week also. in Arizona. I have a lot more faith in the young Kyler Murray than I do Jared Goff. And as we showed last week, the Rams defense won't always be there. So I might just give it to the Cardinals just because they might make a couple big plays on it.
I think a defense like the Rams, they had a letdown. I think they get mad, and I think they fix the problems and come out and play strong.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. Big Oklahoma State fan, so I've never been a fan of Cliff Kingsbury. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, but Kyler Murray, Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, they might make a play or two, and we'll see. We'll see if the Rams come back. So I'm choosing the Cardinals. Sean's going with the Rams. The final game I want to go over for next week. We haven't talked about them all year, but the Texans host the Colts. Indiana's only favored by 3. What are you feeling?
The Texans have been playing a lot better lately.
Yeah.
Watson's having a great year on a bad team. I think I'm gonna go with the Colts. I think they put it back together. The Colts have a very good team. I don't see them, falling apart down the stretch.
And the buck stops there. Because I'm gonna agree with Sean. It's only a 3-point spread in favor of the Colts. The Texans have been playing a lot better here lately, but once again, it's the Colts, and how bad the Texans have been. So I take Indiana by 3.
What do you think about the Saints and the Falcons?
I looked at that game when I was deciding what games I wanted to talk about. I looked at that game. I sat there contemplating whether to bring it up for 10 minutes. No joke, because the Falcons scored 43 points last week on the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, they're a losing team with no chance of making the playoffs for a reason. They started the season absolutely horrible. So,
well, they lost like 3 games in the last couple minutes.
Yeah.
It's a better team than their record indicates. They played them a couple weeks ago. That was remember? And Saints handed it to them.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a fun game.
That's another reason.
What's it? Hill for the Saints? He still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet.
No, yeah. And I think I brought that up last week. How with Drew Brees out, Hill's a really good quarterback, and I like how he runs the football, but you have to pass the football, and you have to pass it well.
Absolutely.
And and he hasn't proven that he can do that yet.
No, he has not.
So obviously we'll see. I obviously I lean towards the Saints blowing out Atlanta, but obviously
what's the spread on that one? Do you have it in front of you?
No, but I can have it in front of me in a few seconds. All right, here we go. Saints Falcons. New Orleans is only by 3.
3? Wow, I was gonna guess 5, but 3. Wow.
New Orleans by 3. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's generous to the Falcons, I think.
Yeah, to the Falcons, absolutely. I think so. Yeah. Huh. All right.
Yeah, I see the Saints taking that one pretty handily. All right. Well, those are all the games that I had highlighted. Do you have any specific games? Do you have any specific games that you want to talk about?
Nothing really intriguing. You got some mismatches. Pretty much on down.
Yeah.
Patriot Rams might be interesting. Oh no, that's next week. Sorry. So yeah, a lot of mismatches.
Yep. I agree. This week will not be the most fun week ever, but we have a few games. That Tennessee game, Rams, Cardinals, Colts, Texans. We have a couple games that should be good. So a
And
lot
there's
of
always those surprise games that come.
do what?
There's always a couple of games that surprise you. There's always a couple of games that like surprise you. Like, wow, that's a pretty good game. Yeah,
Oh
so
yeah,
we'll
and
see. NFL's great.
oh yeah, it's never a sure thing in the NFL.
No.
Oh, look at that. Well, all right. So that that wraps up what I wanted to talk about today. We next week, Sean and I had a little bit of disagreement on some of the picks that we had. So next week we'll have some stuff to talk about and some conceding to do. So um, please, if you're listening on the podcast,
It's a little warm.
please share the word. Please continue to listen. If you're watching on YouTube, please like. Please subscribe. If you have any questions or if you have anything that you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. Please comment. And other than that, that's all I have.
All right, cousin RJ. Say hi to everyone for me.
All right. Have a good one. Everybody have a good week.
All right.